Hello, everyone. So, welcome to this new episode. First of all, thank you for your support and for following us. Today, we're going to go over a bunch of different topics. Of course, there is a lot going on. And remember to like this channel or this episode, to subscribe to our channel. As independent creators, of course, these are very tough times, especially when the mainstream medias and the mainstream platforms are giving more access and more prominent exposure to the mainstream media. So please support us and like, share, and subscribe if you like. And the first topic I want to go over right away, especially here in New York City, where we are based, of course the real estate market. Recently, the New York Times published this article that I'm going to share with you, titled "Manhattan Faces a Reckoning If Working from Home Becomes the Norm." This is really a major topic, especially here in the city, but of course can be applied to any other major metropolitan areas, not only here in the country, in America, but in the rest of the world as well. Of course, especially these the financial districts or the office districts, the downtowns of our city, were built according to a very specific business and financial model, which again was the one we were used to. But what's going to happen now when it's not only the will of, in case of working from home, it's not only if employers want to allow that to happen. Today, the big game changer is, as a matter of fact, the technology. Because even if you wanted to work from home, up until the recent past, really that was a little bit complicated. It wasn't exactly automatic. Instead, now we have a completely different set of technology that actually allows us to work from home in basically as efficiently, if not more efficiently than we are used to do when we are at our office. So these, of course, can be and will be, and that's my opinion, it's going to be a big game changer, because the reality is that all those office towers that we had in Manhattan, it's going to be very hard that they're going to be again filled with people. But you might say this is simply your opinion, Joseph. So that's why I was prepared. And even if the New York Times is not exactly the kind of newspaper that used to be in the past, unfortunately, everything has been intoxicated with these, tribalism and social engineering. So it's very hard these times. And I have to tell you, as an independent contractor, independent creator, I always try to filter this news and try to do my research. Of course, there is a lot of production that goes into this show. But once in a while, even the New York Times can get a topic pretty straightforward. So, and that's the case, I think, with this article, which is pretty fair, I would say, and balanced. So, as you can see, the point here that the author of this article, Matthew Haag, makes is that even after this crisis eases, companies might let workers stay home. That would affect an entire ecosystem, from transit to restaurants to shops, not to mention the tax base, because that's the real problem. Of course, it's always the money, right? So first here, an important topic. yeah, the word ecosystem is the right one, because it's not, you might work for a big corporation, you might work in one of these offices, and again, maybe you have like a 5 6 figure job, like a nice career, and especially if you are successful, you might see people who criticize big corporation, or criticize Wall Street, like people who basically like to complain, or are on the other side of the fence, that they might have got something wrong in their life, and da da da. But it's much more complicated than that. Reality is that many people are excluded by this system. So this resentment that there is for certain part of the financial world and of the corporate world is because these people feel left out, but sometimes they were left out. So here, the problem, though, on the other side, is that sometimes this criticism is ideological. So the problem is that if you think, if you are on the other side of the fence and you think, yeah, it was about time, we had to take down big corporate America, we had to take down Wall Street. Well, the point here is that, and in Manhattan, it's pretty clear, but in any downtown around the country, it's pretty clear as well that there is an entire system that goes around the fact that you have thousands of people in these buildings, and these are many of them. These are those are blue collar jobs. The people who work in the food industry, people who work in the service industry, not mentioning, of course, the maintenance and delivery. These are all pretty much blue collar jobs, and they're going to be affected as well if these buildings are empty. So this is a huge problem. Now, when it comes to transit, especially here in New York, the MTA is legendary with regards to the how low the quality of the service is, how dirty trains and buses are. But when it comes to restaurants and shops, yeah, absolutely, especially the food industry. It's going to be very, very hard for them. Now, when it comes to shops, I'm pretty sure that this is pretty common if you're here in New York, but again, around the cities, around the country, is exactly the same. That on one hand, you have seen over the last years the disappearance of traditional, old-fashioned shops, historic shops in our neighborhoods, and that was here in New York specifically, was the choice made by Mayor Bloomberg. He wanted Manhattan to be the island of billionaires, and of course, then as a consequence, because of the real estate investment in New York City, uh, New York and especially Manhattan real estate has become a bank. Basically, investors from all over the world, there are these complicated financial mechanism according to which you can invest in real estate. So you buy these properties or stocks or funds or whatever, and not exactly because you need a house or you need an apartment and you want to live there. So in New York, has been really many years that we have seen the populated neighborhoods, and the contrast is that maybe these are very affluent, luxury neighborhoods, and almost deserted. Why? Because people don't actually live there. That this has been like a huge problem for many years, and now on top of that, that was already a crisis, because a building needs people inside. Otherwise, maintenance become extremely ineffective and extremely costly. So there was this problem. There were some even like bill proposals of either like have an additional tax for those who are not residents in New York, or if your real estate purchase was basically the result of speculation of a financial investment. So consider that. So that was already the environment that we had over here. And again, pretty sure all the financial or luxury areas in many other metropolitan cities around or areas around the country was exactly the same. So on top of that, now you have this situation where the for safety and concerns about the health of people, they will not only or just be discouraged to go to their offices, but actually to stay home, because it's going to be the guideline from the local government. And also the technology allows people to efficiently and effectively work from home. So here, in particular, the New York Times article mentions the situation of the largest commercial tenants in New York: Barclays, J.P. Morgan Chase, and Morgan Stanley, who have tens of thousands of workers in towers across Manhattan. Now, the author continues, as the city wrestles with when and how to reopen, executives at all three firms have decided that it is highly unlikely that all their workers will ever return to those buildings. The research firm Nielsen has arrived at a similar conclusion. Even after the crisis has passed, its 3,000 workers in the city will no longer need to be in the office full time and can instead work from home most of the week. So Nielsen itself, it's the irony is Nielsen is conducting this study, and Nielsen itself is saying, well, my 3,000 people are not, going to go back to New York full time, and so all the time in Manhattan they're going to work from home. So the real estate company Halstead has 32 branches across the city and region here in the tri-state. But its chief executive, who now conducts businesses over video calls, is mulling reducing its footprint. So Manhattan has the largest business district in the country, and its office towers have long been a symbol of the city's global dominance. With hundreds of thousands of office workers, the commercial tenants have given rise to a vast ecosystem, from public transit, as we were saying, to restaurants and shops. They have also funneled huge amounts of taxes into state and city coffers. So that is the point. Especially in Manhattan, if you want to rent a space, residential, but forget about even when it's commercial. Of course, you need an immaculate credit history, an excellent credit score, and also to show your finances. In residential, you need to prove that you make between 45 times the monthly rent. So it's a lot. It's really a lot. Considering also, you have to consider this is relative to the the sorry, the cost of the rent. So we're talking about 44 times rents that are in the range of thousands of dollars. So we're talking about really huge salaries on a yearly basis. But here, what we see is that now, as the pandemic eases its grip, companies are considering not just how to safely bring back employees, but whether all of them need to go back at all. They were forced by the crisis to figure out how to function productively with workers operating from home, and realize unexpectedly that it was not all bad. Yeah, exactly. Now, consider how much the budget of each company is affected by paying dozens of thousands of dollars every month for rent. On top of that, the cost and the inefficiency that you have people commuting, because again, it's impossible to live in Manhattan right now, and downtown Brooklyn is the same thing. Here in Staten Island, it's always been a little bit tricky, but of course, the commute to Manhattan it's particularly problematic. So again, a lot of people don't live in Manhattan. Of course, it's notorious. So people come from Long Island, people come from upstate New York, from New Jersey. So every day it's like an hour and a half commute each way. So it's a total almost of 3 hours, 4 hours sometimes that you spend basically commuting. Now, so you have to get up 5 a.m. in the morning, 6 a.m. in the morning, and then you're gonna go back home 8 p.m., 9 p.m. And again, to question that was madness. How do you question that? Well, this is how life always been, right? Well, guess what? Now, you can sleep until 7, have a nice breakfast, and start to work right away at 8 a.m. You can take little breaks that, it's proven that, of course, improves everybody's, like anybody's performance. So, you know, you see actually how that plays out. This was a major, basically, test and stress test. So here, if this is the case, that actually companies were unexpectedly they were positively impressed, and that was unexpected. Where they are now wondering whether it's worth continuing to spend as much money on Manhattan's exorbitant commercial rents. They are also mindful that public health consideration may take the packed workplaces of the recent past less viable. Of course, the point is that we don't know exactly how this is going to play out. So, what is which option is better? That you keep paying these crazy rents, and maybe people in the future are going to come back, or you know what? Is that we are going to cut these costs. People are going to work from home. We're going to downsize. We're going to, which it's not necessarily downsizing. It's we're going to allocate our resources in a more rational way. And so we can save money because everybody's gonna be on financial stress right now, and yeah, you cut this cost right away from your budget, and you can invest maybe in in other fields of area of your company, or maybe just to stay alive, because again, this is going to be bad for all of us. So it is really necessary, say Diane Ramirez, the chief executive of Halstead, which has more than 1,000 agents in the New York region. She says, quote, I'm thinking long and hard about it. Looking forward, are people going to want to crowd into offices? It's a very legit question, Mrs. Ramirez. That's what we're all thinking right now. So, and again, this is not as other crisis we have had, in the recent year. Just considering the last 20 years, we had 9/11, of course, and in Manhattan was huge, and then we had the crisis in 2007. But those used to look at us, to us, like major turning point for our life. Well, guess what? That was really nothing compared to this apocalyptic, event. That the magnitude is just unreal. This new normality that we have right now was simply unthinkable a few months ago. So here, the point is, going forward, if we see that the technology allows us to work from home in a way that is more efficient, more effective, more productive, why in heaven you want to change it when also it's gonna cost you a hell less money? That is the real point here. So I really foresee very dark times for real estate moguls and firms in Manhattan, because let's be honest about it. The point is that, of course, the market was overinflated. I mean, it was clear. And the reason why all these historic local businesses, old-fashioned businesses, disappeared is because, yeah, basically the landlords, not a human being, most of the times, but like a fund, with completely different logic. They just want to make money. For them, it's a counter. They just want to count the money. They literally don't care who's there, what they're doing, as far as they have some reliability in paying the rent, because then they can build these financial products and derivative products, financial products on the stocks or bonds or whatever they do over these funds. So the reason why these local shops were disappearing is because basically the landlord, the owner, would wait for the previous rent to expire. They would terminate it, and then they would ask 10 times the money that these tenants were paying. And of course, nobody could afford that. Nobody. So that's why all these businesses disappears. One of the few who is resisting is cats. And it's funny if you go to Cats, the sandwich place famous for Harry meets Sally. Well, it is literally this one-story flat little compound surrounded by these gigantic, super tall skyscrapers, and that's really a sign of the times. This idea, they've been hanging there for years now, and again, but they're going to be swallowed by these giants of concrete. Well, those prices were clearly related to these financial instruments and the speculations, and because of course prices needed to go higher and higher and higher and higher in order to be basically profitable, right? That was the point. So and the we usually forget what market value is, but market value is what basically it's set by one of the major components is what the people are willing to pay for that, right? So that's the point now. People are not willing to pay those crazy rents to these companies, not anymore, because they have a valuable option right now. So yeah, very tough. Anyway, so here then we have of another point. So moving forward, so owners of office towers, including two of the largest lenders in the city, Vornado Realty Trust and Empire State Realty Trust, said, listen to this, that they were confident that after this crisis, companies would value in-person communication more than ever. That's especially the case given how isolated some workers have felt since the shutdown began in March, these landlords say. Now, doesn't this sound like Kodak saying, oh, people will still love films, this digital photography, it's just a trend. People want something to touch. They want the feeling of the paper. They print photos and memories that last and blah blah blah. How did that play out? Right, they sound exactly the same, right? Say, oh yeah, but people need social interaction. You know what is better than the social interaction with your colleagues? Family, friends, co-workers are just co-workers, but and yeah, you can become friends. So your co-workers, there is nothing wrong with that. As a matter of fact, most of the sentimental relationships still take place in the office space, and a lot of cheating happens in the workplace, because then over there you develop this relationship that then you don't take home and blah blah blah. So unless here Vornado Realty Trust and Empire State Realty Trust really care about us, do you believe this? These these financial moguls, do you think they care about your feelings? Sorry about that. That they care about your feelings? Not at all. Not at all. So here, but they're saying, yeah, but people want social interaction. So we do need. We company will want to go back doing this, and again. It sounds very, very unlikely, because, as the article says out, the number of workers who actually prefer to be in an office because of the opportunity for social interaction is an unknown factor. Exactly. This is the main point. So here. There is no study also. This is very, very new. There is no proof that this is actually what people think or people want. So here, David Kenny, the chief executive at Nielsen, said that the company plans to convert its New York offices to team meeting spaces where workers gather maybe once or twice a week. And I think this is going to be one of the major direction. Of course, these places won't just disappear. So very likely they will have to convert these spaces. So maybe it can be, again, these co-working spaces, these community or communal spaces. My opinion is a little bit different. I'll tell you at the end of this video what I think, what kind of conversion needs to happen. So again, uh, here, the point that again, these chief executive of Nielsen is making is that if you are coming and working at your desk, you certainly could do that from home. Exactly. We have leases that are coming due, and it's absolutely driving those kinds of decisions. I've done an about face on this. Yeah, again, when you have the perspective that you can cut hundreds of thousands of dollars from your budget for a place, and you have happier employees, yeah, you. I mean, do you have any reason to care about Barclays, J.P. Morgan Chase, or Morgan Stanley? Not really. These also were the banks saved in back in 2007. The famous bailout, and again, in that case, Wall Street won over Main Street, despite what President Obama was saying at that time. So yeah, that's why this can be called a reckoning for the real estate market in Manhattan, and very likely people from the Main Street are going to benefit from this situation way more than what happened back in 2007 and 2000 and in 2008. So here, even some of the executives, of course, at Barclays are aware of this. Jess Staley said that the notion of putting 7,000 people in a building might be a thing of the past. Yeah, exactly. So as you can see, these people have already started, processing this thought to see basically what they need to do, because for them, again, it's about the money. That's the only thing they care. So they want to find another way to make money through these properties. So not everybody, though, apparently, like to talk about this topic. James Gorman from Morgan Stanley, he declined it to increase. The client increase from the New York Times, but then indirectly from Bloomberg, we got this opinion that there is no footprint at the moment, and that there is no precedent about this. So it's going to be pretty new and pretty. This is uncharted territory for a lot of companies. So again, let's see how this is going to play out. And next topic instead I want to talk to you about is what's going to happen to woke media.